Welcome to Mari's Safe Haven podcast, you guys. I have a special guest here today. She kind of fell into my lap, but she is a client of mine, and her backstory, as far as everything that she has gone through, touched my heart, and I just had to have her. So I'm gonna let her go ahead and introduce herself, and then we're gonna get right to it.
Hi, everyone. I am Cristal Montellano. I am here from Houston, Texas. I'm actually a serial entrepreneur. I am CEO of a wind turbine services company. I am the first female Hispanic services company owner. So I am dominating. I'm dominating
Yes,
the
I'm
industry.
here for it.
I also have a couple of other businesses that are startups. So yeah, I've spoken in front of women. Try to give my testimony in the professional aspect. So being here to share my story in my personal life, to share with you all all the struggles, everything that I've been through, it's a huge honor. So thank you for
Oh,
having me.
y'all see why? Y'all see why I had to bring her? This is why I had to bring her. One of the things that touched me is some of the things that you went through your life personally.
Mhm.
Um, let's dive in. Whenever I was doing your session, what hit home is everything that you went through your personal life, your personal relationship, the father of your kids. So, do you want to speak into that real quickly?
Yes. So I fell in love with my high school sweetheart. Everything started well. Everything started perfect. He's very romantic. He won my family over. He would go to church. We're very faith based. So he won us all over. And I right out of high school, I got pregnant, and I became very submissive. I let go of my dreams. I wanted to be an architect.
How old were you?
I was right out of high school, so 18. Yeah.
Okay.
So I had my son at 19, and I became a wife. I became a mother. That was my new goal. Like, I just let it all go. I said, no, this is my new calling. I need to be a mother.
Was there anything like, was it just being brought up that way in your household? Like, I feel like as Latinas, we're seeing like, okay, you need to, as soon as you get out of school, find your man, get married, have kids, and that's it. Was it that kind of upbringing that led you to that, or what?
So, no, you're right. Because as Latinas, we are kind of brought up by, you have to be submissive to your
Mm-hmm.
husband. You have to treat him like a king. However, I feel like my parents being immigrants, they wanted better for me.
Mm-hmm.
So even though my mom was, suggesting like, hey, you should get you a good man, but they were very career driven. They wanted me to go to college. They wanted me to pursue my dreams
Mm-hmm.
and then think about a family.
Oh, wow.
But it wasn't like a must.
Mm-hmm.
If I found a good man that was going to make me a wife and that was going to lead me in my faith, they were all for it.
Mm-hmm.
So it was, either or. It wasn't really forced. However, being Christian, I did get pregnant before marriage. So marriage was forced. We were forced to get married just to make things right. And that's really where things started to spiral out of control.
Was
I
was that forced through your church, or is it, do you feel like upon being a Christian woman, like that's what you, it was a must for you?
It was forced by, I wouldn't say my church, I would say just my faith in the way that we believe things,
Mm-hmm.
that a child should not be born, out of wedlock. And so also my parents, they wanted to make sure that he, stood up and took his time
Mm-hmm.
and um,
Did what he was
to,
supposed to
yeah,
do.
that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of forced, really.
Mm-hmm.
And in a sense of like it was rushed.
Mm-hmm.
However, we did want to get married. It was just too soon.
Yeah. No, I totally get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially being a kid yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, damn, you're taking on all these responsibilities, but yet you're still trying to figure out who the hell you are.
Exactly.
So fast forward a little bit, you get pregnant, and
Yes. So my family was just very against everything,
mm-hmm.
and me moving out, it was just a lot of emotions, a lot of things. I'm the only girl. I have two brothers. So being the only girl, my mom was very protective of me,
Of course,
and
yeah.
she was just very disappointed, of getting pregnant before marriage and, even forced being married. I moved out, moved in with him. We tried to make the best of things. However, we we were not really doing it the right way.
Mm-hmm.
I was not going to church. Like he really took me away from a lot of, our traditions. I wasn't coming around Christmas, holidays, none of that. And that's when,
He wanted to keep you right here for a
yes,
reason.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to reason with him. I tried to understand where he came from.
Mm-hmm.
He did see that, I grew up very close-minded, in a manipulated, I guess, environment.
Mm-hmm.
And he wanted me to open my eyes to see what's out here in the real world. So I kind of understood where he was coming from. However, I also saw his negative masculine come out, where he
Mm-hmm.
was starting to become abusive, not physically. It started first emotionally
Mm-hmm.
and then verbally, and then it went into physically.
What things do you remember? Like, what's the first thing that comes to your memory as far as some of the things that he told you that just stuck and it was the hardest for you to get rid
Oh, so first it was a lot of, I have nobody. And I think that one's the one that stuck to me the most because he was right. I didn't have sisters. My brothers and I, although we grew up very close, they were not around.
of? Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't check in on me.
Mm-hmm.
I needed a hero.
Mm-hmm. You
And
felt isolated.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have anyone to reach out to. My mom shunned me, my church shunned me, and my father, for as much, we love each other to death, but my father, he's actually my stepfather,
Mm-hmm.
and I felt like he didn't feel ownership of that role,
Mm-hmm.
so he didn't step in. He was very quiet, very peaceful,
Mm-hmm.
and I just needed a hero, and
Mm-hmm.
he saw that nobody stood up for me. So that's where he started getting to me. No one's
Mm-hmm.
gonna be there for you. You're on your own. Who's gonna want you with a kid? So
Wow.
that's how it all started.
So once he started feeding all this into your mind, you started believing it. It's like I feel like we start lowering our self-worth by allowing that to occur, right? We start believing it, we start seeing it. We're like, well, we have no other, like, this is our life now.
Right.
How did it, now that you're here, what happened that it got into the physical aspect of it?
So it became physical once I started to stand up for myself.
Mm-hmm.
I would be very submissive. I mean, I think as a wife now, I did everything by the book. I woke up, made him breakfast, lunch, dinner. Everything was from scratch.
Girl,
The
shit. Ain't no fucking way. Not me. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
the house was always clean. I catered to my son. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't work. I didn't even go to school. I was just all about my son. Uh, I was just very wifely, and I loved it. I enjoyed my role.
Mm-hmm.
I found so much purpose in it. However, he became abusive when he was just being very negative, saying bad things to me if
Mm-hmm.
I wore something too tight or if I was at home.
Mm-hmm.
And he would realize that I was wearing something that I shouldn't be wearing, like inappropriate, that was just for him.
Mm-hmm.
I would wear it for him.
Mm-hmm.
However, he never wanted it. Like it was just very manipulating in the
Mm-hmm.
sense of like, I want you to wear this, sexy lingerie for me. And whenever I would, why are you wearing it? Who are you wearing it for? So it
Mm.
was very like, do I wear it? Do I not wear it?
Contradicting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's when things got physical. That's when he first started with grabbing my hair,
Mm-hmm.
pulling me from my hair, grabbing me from my arms,
Mm-hmm.
pushing me, smacking me. It was just different things. The first one that occurred, which stays with me to this day, and I don't think we will ever heal from that,
Mm-hmm.
um, or forget. We'll forgive, but it's really hard. Was when this is funny, but we used to actually play the game Word
Mm-hmm.
on our phones,
Yeah.
and he was beating me. He was always beating me, and I'm like, oh, he's so good at this game.
Mm-hmm.
So I started cheating. I got this app that like gave you the
Mm-hmm.
answers, and it was just like I thought it was very innocent. However, because of how he would just talk so down on me, it started to like eat me away. He's like, oh, you must be doing something on your phone, and I didn't want him to see the app.
Yeah.
It was so innocent.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was in the shower and I saw him going through my phone, and I was like, oh my God, you're going to see what I have on there. And he's like, what do you have? Like, he just went straight to negative when
Mm-hmm.
it was like, hey, it's just an app.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't even bother to, like, he went, grabbed my phone, and he didn't even bother to look at what I was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And he just opens the shower. I'm in the shower with my son. My son was maybe, I want to say he was about to be a year old. and he just grabs me and starts choking me.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, I'm actually drowning because the water's
It's
hitting
hitting
my
your
face.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember looking down and my son just like staring at me, like, what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
So my first reaction was just to kick him in the nuts.
Mm-hmm.
I
Go,
kicked him, but first, before that, I just remember grabbing him from the hands and just looking at him, and he was not there.
He blacked out.
Yeah.
Out of rage, out of anger, out of no excuse. But yeah.
And as soon as he let go, when I hit him, I was just crying. I got out of the shower. I clothed myself. I laid down, and he's looking through. He's like, "What were you hiding from me?" And I was like, "It was the app for words."
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "You could have just said that." I'm like, you didn't have to do all of that."
Mm-hmm.
And then he would be all lovey-dovey, and I'll just forgive him. So that was the first time, and when it
Wow.
started getting aggressive.
Do you feel like, and I feel like as women, when shit like that happens to us, it's like we make excuses as far as what the reality is. We're like,
Hmm.
that really didn't happen.
Right.
Or we make excuses for him. Like, I shouldn't have gotten him that mad. I feel like because he already did the first steps to you as far as telling you and feeding shit to you, you your value and your self-worth allowed you to continue to stay in a situation in that. And it just hurts whenever I hear women who go through this shit and it's like, what gets us here? Why do we allow ourselves to stay? So, fast forward past that part, you basically swept everything under the rug.
Hmm.
What's the next thing?
So right after that, he was actually into the nightlife. I
Mm-hmm.
was not.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I grew up Christian. That really didn't catch my attention.
Mm-hmm.
And he said he got home. I had made dinner. I was ready for him, and I said, where are you going? He was taking a shower. He got all ready, put cologne on. He said, I'm gonna go, drink with the boys. And I said, well, can you at least have dinner with us?
Mm-hmm.
I made dinner. And he said, no, I gotta go. And I said, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So out of anger, I grabbed all the food,
Mm-hmm.
threw it in the trash.
Yeah.
Like I was just that angry.
Mm-hmm.
And I started cleaning. And he said, why would you do that? He started calling me names. And as soon as he came up to me, one thing that, I've had to heal from, which is I used to take it like very personal, but
Mm-hmm.
now it's like me just sharing with the world that it's not okay for a man to do that to you. But he would come in, he would check on me. He would check, he would, you know, feel on me to make sure that I was not with another man. And at that time, he was checking on the clothes that I was wearing. I had sweatpants, and he saw that I was wearing lingerie for him
Mm-hmm.
under, and he just went straight to raging.
Mm-hmm.
Who's gonna come over? How would I have known that somebody like? I didn't even know he was gonna go out.
Mm-hmm.
This was for him after dinner. I was gonna try to please him,
Mm-hmm.
but he thought if somebody was gonna come over, and we got into a heated argument. And I said, this was for you, but I'll go change. And that's when he caught me by the front door. He choked me, hit me against the door. My head hit the doorknob
Mm-hmm.
because it had like several locks, and I fell on the ground. Then that's when I was just in shock on the floor, and he got in his car and left. So at that point, I didn't know what was going on. I
Mm-hmm.
just knew that he had just choked me. I'm like, what's going on? Thankfully, my family lived around the corner. And to me, this is just a miracle where I know like how big our God is
Mm-hmm.
I grabbed my son. First thing I did, just grab my son, grab my wallet, and I started running to my mom's house.
Mm-hmm.
I did not realize it was Friday. Friday night, our church back then had service,
Mm-hmm.
and my little brother plays the drums. So I remember going to my mom's house, and he starts chasing me with the car. And he says, are you going to call the cops? And I said, please just leave me alone.
Mm-hmm.
I made it to my mom's doorstep. No one's home. And I just sit by the door and I'm just holding on to my son. Again, he's like about one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm holding on to my son. He doesn't know what's going on. I'm trying to stay calm so he won't freak out. And my family comes. They pull into the driveway.
Mm-hmm.
I was sitting there. I want to say I was sitting there for like a good 30 minutes, an hour. But it happened to be that my little brother forgot his drumsticks. So they came back home to pick them up,
Mm-hmm.
and my little brother found me there. And my dad, they all panicked, took me inside the house. I'm sitting on the sofa, and my dad's asking me questions like, what happened? What happened? And I just remember closing my eyes. I wake up, and I'm in my mom's bed. A cop's flashing lights on me.
Mm-hmm.
On my eyes, I wake up, and they were asking me questions, taking photos. He actually choked me to where my brothers called, they saw all the bruises. They arrested him, so he went to jail.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to, use that time. He was in jail for 3 years. That's when I used that time to heal and kind of, you know, move on from that.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like I was trauma bond.
Mm-hmm. Oh, 100%.
I was trauma bond, and I just wanted to get back to the happy times.
Mm-hmm.
But that's really what happened right after, and that was a huge mark for me in a sense of like I was almost out, but I didn't leave.
It kept pulling you back in because
Mm-hmm.
you weren't ready to deal with the situation at hand.
Right.
And you were so even with those 3 years that he was gone, I remember before you mentioned to me that you stayed faithful to him.
Mm-hmm.
You still you still stayed there. You feel like you had an obligation to him,
Yes.
even though he did X, Y, and Z to you. What was that for you? Like, why did you feel like I still have to be this, perceive this type of person? Like, what was that for you?
Yes. So in the Christian world, divorce is a sin. However, there, like when it comes to violence and, cheating, that's obviously like it's okay to divorce. But I didn't want to be divorced. I didn't want to be that single mom. I was afraid of like, what would they see me as? Like, oh, and I really did believe everything he would tell me that, no one's going to want you with a kid. So I was faithful to him. I would put money in his books. I would answer all his phone calls. And it became so controlling to where I worked an 8 to 5 job, and he would call me at 5:30, and if I had to go pick up my son from daycare and rush home. I mean, I was on my toes while he was in jail. I was
Wow.
anxiety. My heart
Mm-hmm.
was just pounding. I had to make it home on time because he's going to call me. And if the phone rang, one ring too long, he would ask me, "What are you doing? Who are you with?" I lived with his father also. So,
I'm so sorry you had to go. Like, wow.
yeah.
What oh, wow. Like, it's crazy what I feel like a woman is capable of going through.
Hmm.
Like, God made us for our bodies to create life.
Yes.
And I feel like that comes with a bad too. Like,
Hmm.
we're able to take on so much. So now you have gone through all this with your child next to you,
Hmm.
damn near a life and death experience. What was the incident that finally got you out?
Oh, this one. I just actually talked about it yesterday. Well, it was my birthday.
Mm-hmm.
It was my birthday. I was the only one working. I finally had a really good job working from home. And, we were living in Atascocita, Kingwood area. So I said,
So he's out of jail.
yes.
There's still physical, emotional, everything kind of abuse that still has been reoccurring.
Correct.
And fast forward to this day, it's your birthday.
It's,
And I'm a birthday person, y'all. I'll celebrate all month. So, like, I get so hurt when people go through stuff like that that affects them times 10. But it's your birthday now. You want to make something so special for you.
right.
What happened?
So I decided to do a getaway. I
Mm-hmm.
said, guys, let's just go to San Antonio. I don't really celebrate my birthday. I
Mm-hmm.
actually have, an aunt that passed away. She meant a lot to me. She died on my birthday.
Oh.
So I felt like it was selfish for me to celebrate.
Mm-hmm.
However, I wanted to celebrate with my kids. So I'm like, let's go to San Antonio. I paid for everything.
Mm-hmm.
We had passes to Six Flags. I got us a hotel. I got us a rental vehicle. I mean, everything was paid for. And he was talking about dinner. So I'm thinking, okay, he wants to take me somewhere for dinner. He was asking me, where do you want to go? I said, oh, Japanese steakhouse. We went to, as soon as we got to San Antonio,
Mm-hmm.
it was like a light switch.
Mm-hmm.
He went from happy driver to just, what are you doing? Who are you looking at? Why, you just want attention.
Is
And
there anything that you can think of that made him snap, like that you did or said, or is it just, do you feel like he was just like, no, like in realization about what's going on? He didn't want you to have your moment, your day.
yes, he did not want me to have my moment. He's done that to me previous times, but I always let it go
Mm-hmm.
because I felt like you shouldn't expect anything for your birthday. So that was just my mentality. And he was just mostly, I guess, the excuse I had for him is he didn't sleep well last night. And it was a 3 hour drive, almost 4 hour drive to San Antonio. We left at 6 in the morning. He's just grumpy, that was really why I thought he was being that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I was not wearing anything inappropriate. I was wearing baggy pants,
Mm-hmm.
big old uh, jacket,
Mm-hmm.
sweater. And mind you, my birthday's in July.
Wow.
So to be covered up that way was my dedication to him, my respect to him. And I was not at my best body either. So I didn't understand where all that was coming from. And as our day was going, he was just very negative, screaming at me and the kids in front of the public. Like everyone was just staring at us at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I was embarrassed. Fast forward to dinner. He decides to take a nap for dinner, and we wake up late. We didn't make it to dinner on time. And I decided, let's just go back to the hotel. We did. It just didn't end well.
Mm-hmm.
We came back to Houston. My mom called me the next morning saying, Mija, I'm going to come over. We want to make breakfast for you. And I said, okay, sure. And I was not afraid of my family coming at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I was paying the bills.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, I was already standing up for myself more and more and more. If he became violent, I would defend myself. I'll run away. And if he talked back, I talked back, right back. Because I said, no, I pay all the bills. I'm technically the man of the house. You're not going to disrespect me. I'm such a good woman to you. So I go into the bedroom. He's still asleep. And I said, hey, my family's coming over. We're going to have breakfast. Do you want something? And he just went down the list of names, calling me a whore. All I want is attention, that I just want people around. And I blacked out. And I went up to him and I had enough. I said, I am tired of you calling me a hoe.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so good. I love you. I'm so faithful to you.
Mm-hmm.
And I smacked him.
Mm-hmm.
I smacked him and
Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. Don't
it,
don't put my violence, but I would.
no, don't.
No, I'm just kidding.
So it was just a moment where I wasn't proud of that because I let him get to me and I've never let him get to me like that. I would defend myself previously, but not to the point where I struck first.
Mm-hmm.
And I embraced myself because I knew it was coming. He gets up and he hit me. He hit me here pretty hard. Again, I was against. Oh well, there was a wall behind me. I hit the wall and I just remember going to sleep. And I wake up and I'm on his side of the bed
Mm-hmm.
and he's next to me and he's freaking out. Like, what did I just do to her?
Mm-hmm.
So I get up and I'm like, what did you do? Why are we mad? Why are we arguing? Why are you
So you
upset?
have no memory of what has occurred.
Right.
You're blacked out in
Hmm.
bed. Wow.
Yes. So part of me was like, run. I ran to the restroom to
Mm-hmm.
where he couldn't catch up to me. I locked the door.
Mm-hmm.
I look in the mirror and I just started crying. What did he do to me? What did I do to start an argument? I started blaming myself. I get in the tub, I turn the water on, and I just lay there. And out of all the I was actually very dizzy
Mm-hmm.
and I fell in the tub and he barges in and then he lifts me up from the water and he says, "Are you okay? I heard that you fell. You must have hurt yourself really bad."
Mm-hmm.
I knew what he was doing. I was starting to connect, one and one and say, he just hit me.
Mm-hmm.
I need to get out of here. It's gonna end bad.
Mm-hmm.
And so my son came after him and said, "Mommy, Daddy saved you."
Wow.
So I didn't want to take that from my son.
How old was your son at the time?
He was now 9 years old. Yeah.
Wow. Uh-huh.
So they didn't hear the argument in the bedroom, but they heard the thump in the shower. And that's when he saw his dad saving me from the tub.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I realized, oh my God, my mom's on her way. My mom gets there, she sees big old bruise, um, which I still have some. Whenever you said that you felt something, I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I hope it's not what this.
Mm-hmm.
But I had a lot of, I guess, damage here,
Mm-hmm.
and
Scar tissue.
yeah, I had
Mm-hmm.
a lot of like a lump that I had to like massage away.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when my mom looked at me. She's like, "What happened?" I said, "Oh, I fell in the tub." And my son is also like in the background. Yeah, she fell in the tub. Daddy saved her. So I just went with it. And I finally like told my mom a couple of days later. And she didn't say anything. She just looked at me because she knew. She tried to get me out of that situation. She knew I can't say anything to her anymore. It's going to have to be her now.
You have to be ready to get out of that
Hmm.
situation.
And that's when I said, okay. I called my brothers. Can y'all come over? I need y'all parked outside. Okay. They didn't ask any questions. I called my dad, my mom. They came over. And since my dad is the one that's, like I said, very peaceful, level headed, he can get along with him. He got home and my dad just said, "Can I have the keys?" And my brothers were on standby. They were ready.
Mm-hmm.
They were ready in their cars. And he said, "Okay." He just gave the keys to my dad. He
Mm-hmm.
said, "Your stuff's upstairs." And that was it. That's when I
Wow.
finally did it.
I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you for just even allowing yourself to get to the point where you can finally get out.
Hmm.
And I know sometimes a lot of people can hear this and be like, well, she should have been out. Like, you shouldn't have done this in front of your kids. Easier said, easier said than fucking done.
Right.
And I always tell people never judge somebody because when you're in that situation, you can possibly do different. What you said, you were starting to stand up for yourself. What were you doing for yourself that got you to that point? Like, how did you start loving yourself again to get you to that point to finally leave?
So for sure, I was tired of being tired. As a mom in a marriage, I felt like I was a single mom.
Mm-hmm.
I would cook, I would clean, I would do everything. I worked, I traveled, I did it all. And having a professional image, I started to say, I need to look better. I need to look more professional. I can't be surrounded by these very successful men and look, raggedy. I have
Mm-hmm.
to stay clean.
Mm-hmm.
I started getting haircuts. I would never get a haircut
Mm-hmm.
because even a haircut, oh, that's too expensive.
Mm-hmm.
What do you want to look cute for? I started working out in my own home because I couldn't go to the gym.
Mm-hmm.
So I started loving myself for the professional aspect, just so that I can look like I fit in.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when it started. That's when my journey to self-loving, because once I started feeling better, I had more energy. I started, like, my clothes started fit me big. I was like, okay, like,
You're
you know,
feeling yourself.
yeah,
Yeah, you're starting to love who you're seeing in the mirror.
yes. And my teeth, I was very insecure about my teeth, so I got braces. And as I noticed that my teeth were starting to get more straight, I'm like, who is she? Like, I would look in the mirror and I'm like, I've never smiled before. I always would smile like this.
Mm-hmm.
All my pictures from when I was younger, never do I have a picture of me showing my teeth.
Mm-hmm.
So I could finally, smile showing my teeth. And I figured he'd be happy for me, but he was just very insecure about it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I started standing up for myself. And I would say, wouldn't you want your wife to feel good about herself? So yeah, that was really one of my, I guess, one of my mantras.
Mm-hmm.
A saying I would tell myself all the time is, if you want to perform good, you have to look good. You have
Mm-hmm.
to feel good.
Mm-hmm.
So at work, I was all about operations. I mean, every day something could go wrong and I could not be in my feelings. I literally had to step into I call it dark feminine energy.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say masculine. I would say dark feminine energy,
Mm-hmm.
to where I just have to be boss mode.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't, like I said, I couldn't be emotional because then we're called hormonal.
Mm-hmm.
We're called all kinds of
Oh,
things.
you're on your cycle. You're PMSing, mother.
Yeah.
Yes. It's like I was just telling you before we even started recording that I commend you because A, you're Latina, you're young, you're a female, and to be in a dominant male industry, it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
It is so hard because how you're perceived, it doesn't matter if you have 100 billion degrees, they're still going to look at you like down here.
Yes.
So I feel like if we continue to show up the way we show up, they have no choice but to see us for who we are.
Right.
It's accepting yourself as who you are and not deserving anything less. And I see that in you now. Even you I guess going into your story, you finally left. Okay, I'm done. Was there any moments from that point after that you had a moment of weakness that you felt like I need to go back to this person, to the quiet, timid, deserving less type of person? Was there anything that occurred that you feel like kind of went back to that trauma bond?
For my children, I decided to let him see the kids.
Hmm.
I didn't want to take that away from them.
So at
And
this point, how many kids did you guys have together?
two,
Two.
yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I didn't want to take that away from them either.
Mm-hmm.
So we would co-parent. And going back to the happy moments, I know he was in his best behavior. And, he would tell me how he was just trying to defend himself.
Mm-hmm.
That's why he hit me the way he did. And that's when I gave in and I'm like, he's right. I should have never, striked first.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I almost went into weakness,
Mm.
but I snapped out of it.
What
I
made you snap out of it?
just, I guess, self-discipline and self-love. And the anxiety started to come back. Just by him texting me,
Yeah.
I started getting anxiety again. And it was, being working in a male dominant industry. I'm surrounded by men. I'm surrounded by technicians.
Mm-hmm.
However, I work remote. So they're all through text, through messages, through emails, and they're all very respectful.
Mm-hmm.
And if somebody tries to be out of line, respect for myself, not even for him, for myself. Don't talk to me like that. I'm your boss. I'm this, I'm that. And they back up and they respect me. And he was just not okay with it. And I would tell him, well, wouldn't you want to be part of this? I even almost hired him to work for my
Girl.
company. just so that he could understand that I'm honoring you whether we're together or not. Um,
It's like you tried to see the best in him.
mhm,
You tried to see the potential. And I get it because it's like for your kids, I want you to be here so we can be here together because you did love him. Even though, it was bad, you still saw something in him.
right.
So you wanted to continue to see that. You
Mhm,
wanted to show that for him. But as women, it's like, why do we do that? Why do we see somebody and be like, okay, I'm gonna fix you? No, who they show us at the very beginning is who they
they are.
are,
Mhm.
is who they are. So, all right, you got to that moment. And I feel like you were saying that teaching yourself being in this industry brought you back to that self love. So, you got to that moment, self love hit. What were you telling yourself?
I was giving myself an ultimatum. I said, I go back and become the submissive wife he wants me to be, continue to invest everything that I have into him and come out with nothing,
Mm-hmm.
or I let go of that, live with the guilt that I chose my career over him, which I know I'll get over,
Mm-hmm.
and secure a future for my kids.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to get something out of that. So that's when I said, I have to stay with my career. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sorry.
So do you feel like you saying that now, do you honestly feel like you chose your career over him?
Absolutely. And in a sense, it sounds wrong, but if you really think about it as a mom, that was the best option for my kids.
To be honest, my lash is sticking to my. To be honest, I don't feel like you did. I felt like you chose. I don't want you to see it as you choosing your career over him. You chose happiness. You
Mm-hmm.
chose peace of mind. You chose the best version of yourself for your kids.
Yes.
And I feel like as women, we have this Wonder Woman syndrome where we constantly literally take on the whole world. And for what? We can't constantly be on E. We can't pretend our kids see that.
Right.
Was there any time or any point where your kids came up to you and were like, Mom, what are you doing? Mom, no more crying. Mom.
Yes. My son, thankfully, my daughter didn't get to see much of it.
Mm-hmm.
She's very attached to her dad. However, my son, he witnessed it all. We grew up together,
Mm-hmm.
technically.
Mm-hmm.
He saw me cry. He saw me scream. He always came up to me to hug me. So I've had that the whole time. But the first time he spoke up was before I finally called it quits when he hit me for my birthday. My son and I couldn't show my son love.
Wow.
In the Hispanic community, men are to be raised tough and to be manly. And if you showed 1 inch of love,
Mm-hmm.
any ounce of
It's a
love,
weakness.
yes,
Yeah.
I'm being too motherly or I'm going to
Baby him.
baby him.
Mm-hmm.
So my son and I had started a kind of like a secret code. He would hold my hand and squeeze it 3 times. And that was his way of telling me, I love you. So we established this thing and we would always hold each other's hands and he would just squeeze me 3 times. And that was their secret way of his dad not hearing us and
Wow.
his dad wouldn't get mad. So we started showing each other love that way. And that's when it hit me. I'm like, wow, we have to keep our love a secret. This is insane. And my son came up to me and said, Mom, if dad does not love you, like if he hates you so much, why is he here?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, if dad is not here, would you be upset about that? He's like, no, I'm happier when he's gone. And I was like, wow. It was just that like a wake up moment for me because this whole time I'm doing it for him, but
Mm-hmm.
this whole time he doesn't want his dad around.
Mm-hmm.
So it was sad, but in a way it was liberating because I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, I know what I have to do now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fine. Financially, I'm good. Everything, I'm good. I don't need him. So that's really when my son woke me up from it. He really saved me.
No.
Hmm.
See, you chose you. You
Yeah.
chose like I. It's just it sucks when I hear a bunch of clients come in and you guys tell me your stories, and I hear like, well, I have to stay for my kids. No, no, the fuck you don't. I feel like that causes more damage because you're showing, especially as women, if you have daughters, you're showing them what we're allowed to deal with. As men, you're showing them how are they going to treat their significant other.
Right.
And I feel like we have to, even if that means we have to be a single mom. Even now, for me, if I get into any other relationship, and I already told my kids, like, my goal and my purpose, if I am with anyone, is to show you how I need to be loved. But it
Right.
starts with me.
Mm-hmm.
How are we going to allow somebody else to love us if we don't even know what that looks like for us?
Absolutely.
And I feel like now I see like this glow. I see like even you talking about this
Mm-hmm.
now, as hard as it was, what is something that you will tell other women who might be going through the same thing? How do you start with that self love?
You have to be tired of your lifestyle. There's really, everyone is different. I think your upbringing takes a huge factor of that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's really no right words. I've actually met a lot of women that are going through it, and I've tried to share my story, but that's not me.
Mm-hmm.
They're just in a,
Delusion, Delulu. I
yeah,
call it the fucking Delulu state. Yes.
yeah, and they're just, they don't want to accept it.
Mm-hmm. They're
That
not
is,
ready
there's,
to.
yeah, and you just have to realize this is your story. You have to change the narrative. You can change the narrative.
At
Stop being,
any point in
you
time.
can, yeah. So I would say stop being the victim. As harsh as that sounds, we have to take accountability for our own actions,
Mm-hmm.
for our own decisions.
Mm-hmm.
I decided to stay. I decided to keep going through that. God did not do that to me. He
Mm-hmm.
allowed it. He said, "Okay, this is a lesson that I'm going to let you learn."
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to. That was my decision. I took accountability and I said, "I'm no longer a victim. This is not going to be my story." And I changed my narrative and I said, "I'm going to be the hero." And one thing I did want to share was this whole time I remember telling my ex-husband and even my son, they're very talented,
Mm-hmm.
and I would invest in them, like, you guys are going to get us out. You
Mm-hmm.
guys are going to get us out of this struggle, and we are going to make it big. I felt it, and I could, like, it was so, like, to the point where I could taste it, and I would have dreams,
Mm-hmm.
and I would see cameras. I would see not fame, but like I knew that we were going to do something major. I didn't know at the time, but the whole time I thought it was going to be someone else, and it was me.
It's you, honey.
It was me the whole time.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
And
that gave me chills.
and it was just like that's how much I was neglecting myself,
Mm-hmm.
that I never thought it was going to be me. That I'm like, I'm just a mom.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just this little girl from Houston.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just this little brown girl. My parents are immigrants. We grew up with hand-me-downs. I would wear my brother's clothes. So I grew up a tomboy, and I'm like, I would look at other successful women, other people that, were silver spoon fed,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, that would never
You
be me.
felt undeserving.
Mhm.
Like that is not, I can't reach that.
Right.
I was never given that. So there's no point of having that.
Mhm.
Trust me. Yeah. I feel like being teen moms and getting ourselves to the point that we are now and getting out of that statistic where we're never going to make it. We're going to keep having kids. We're
Mhm.
going to live like the lowest of the low. No, we proved everyone else wrong.
Wrong.
And we're going to continue to do that. And I feel like whoever is out there listening, if you are somebody who is a teen mom or who has kids and is a single mom and think like we can't do it all, Shit. Y'all are looking at two women who are currently doing it all.
Yes.
Um, what do you, in the career that you are in now, I feel like a lot of people tell us that you can't be a mom and do everything. Like you have to pick and choose. How do
Right.
you feel about when people say that?
Oh, I laugh. I just ignore it, to be honest. I feel like they want you to fail
Mm-hmm.
because there has to be, you can't be 100% on everything.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, you have to be lacking in one aspect of your life in order for the other to be succeeding. But I honestly feel like when I was married, I was a good wife. I was a good mom. My company had just started. I was doing so well.
How did that occur? How did your company start? Because I remember I had this conversation with you. What happened the day as far as like you went to school to be an engineer,
Yes.
correct? And then how did it lead to you getting to your company?
So the way it led there, it's just to me, it was all, I'm very into um, writing everything down, writing your visions
Manifesting.
down, manifesting. And so I remember working for this company from Spain. They are their headquarters are over there, so they started an office in Houston, and they needed someone to work in their Houston office, someone bilingual. So I started working there. I was the only one. I was in the office and I worked in the warehouse.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, we hired more people. However, I was the main one. When they laid everybody off, they weren't making enough sales. I remember writing down this vision saying they have really good equipment. They were also in the wind industry. They actually opened my eyes to the industry. It was my first job with working with turbines. They flew me to Spain, and it was just an eye-opening experience, like how this industry is so huge, in Europe and in America, it's just starting off. So I had a vision. I wrote it down, and I remember my ex-husband being next to me and me telling him, I can do this, I can do that, and this is how I can operate. These are the procedures. I know I can do this. I just need the money. And I remember putting that paper away, and I said, well, God, if it's meant for me, it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't look at that. I don't even know where that paper is. I just wrote it down. I put it away. I got laid off. I didn't even last 3 days without a job. Another company reached out to me, same industry. I started working for them. I met some people in there. They asked me, what did I used to do? How did I get in the industry? And one of them was very impressed with what I used to do. And so he connected me with other people and he said, Cristal, we like that. We have this much money. Let's start a company. And I was like, what? I'm like, okay, sure. What do you want me to
How
be?
did that feel? How did it feel? Like, what was the first feeling that came to you as soon as you heard that?
Well, at first, it kind of like I was
Like, is this
dumbfounded.
fucking real? Is this happening right now?
Yeah, and I was. This is when I realized how small-minded I was. I was like, okay, I'll be your operations director. I'll work at this rate. They said, no, you're gonna be the owner. You're gonna be CEO. And I was like, what? Me? I don't even know how to start an LLC. Like I've always been like an 8 to 5 girl.
Mm-hmm.
And so as I hung out with them more, we would go to dinner, we would have lunch. They started guiding me. These men, they had businesses, and
They saw the potential in
mhm,
you.
and they took me in as their daughter, and they
Oh,
started training me, telling me, and I'm so grateful for my partner. He would check in on me saying, Cristal, I think you should do it this way. Cristal, I have some lawyers that can help us. Don't worry. I got you. Fine print, everything. He walked me through everything. He was a God sent person. And him being in the same faith, I was like, okay. Like it was just
th-
insane how I manifested that.
mm-hmm.
And I just remember sitting in my car because, like I said, I don't really have that many friends that I can share these news with.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I told my mom, her first thing was, Mija, what if they're going to take advantage of you? There was no joy. Everyone sucked the joy out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I just went home and I told my kids, and we celebrated. We were just jumping around, dancing. And I'm like, I think this is just going to be it. That's how I would celebrate a victory, was just with my kids, because I really don't have many people.
Mm-hmm.
I have a couple of close best friends, but they're always traveling, they're always working. And I grew up very humble, where even if you showed your victories, even if you talked about
It's
it,
looked down upon.
like, oh, she's showing off. And I remember wanting to go back to my mom's church. Things have changed,
Mm-hmm.
things modernized, and they're very loving. That family has always been a family of ours. They're not family by blood, but family by choice.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been there for my family this whole time. So been there for me. So I'm like, okay, I want to go back. And I remember taking the pastors out to lunch just to talk to them
Mm-hmm.
and getting some mentorship from them. And I said, but I don't want to go back because if they see what I'm driving, it's a very low income church
Mm-hmm.
in a sense of like, it's not in the best side of Houston.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a big mega church. Everyone there is like not financially well.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, what if they see what I drive? What if they see what I wear? Like, I don't want to go in there like this hot shot. And, the pastor just calmed my anxiety and said, no, you are who you are. You worked hard for it. You need to own it. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what made me go back. And I started feeling like I do have to share my story. It's not showing off. It's not,
Mm-mm.
if anyone thinks it's showing off, then that's an insecurity that they have. So, yeah.
Oh, I'm so happy. Yeah, when I first heard her story, you guys, it gave me chills because it's like it speaks to, I feel like women and then women of color.
Hmm.
Like we have to put ourselves down here or put ourselves in a box because that's where we're put. And no, no, not anymore. No.
We are more
I
than that.
we are more than that. And the reason why I wanted to create a safe space where we can speak because um it's hard to tell our stories. It's hard
Very.
to tell our stories to ourselves.
Yes.
But I feel like this is its own healing experience. I feel like your story is so wonderful. You are, unfortunately, of what some of those instances were, I feel like you had to go through what you had to go through to be here.
Hmm.
People deserve to hear you. People deserve to see you. I feel like it's gonna not even where you are now, it's gonna take you even higher
Hmm.
because what's that saying? You want to make God laugh? Tell him your plans.
Yes.
I feel like it's just there's so many people out here who need our help.
Hmm.
And
I agree.
your testimony alone can save so many. Do not let any negative, do not let your own self ever get in the way of that. I see so much potential in you, which is why I wanted you to even be here in the first place because your story is going to hit home.
Hmm.
Even if it's for one person, I could care less. Like, as long as we help. And I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you taking the time out to even say these things because I know it's very, very, very hard. Um, what is one thing that you want to say before we leave that maybe like you haven't been wanting to say or scared to say, but that looking in the camera, maybe there's that one person that needs to hear this, or even for yourself? What would
Hmm.
that
I would say if I can do it, you can do better. Me coming from not a not so privileged background, I was able to face it all and with my kids on my back. I had so much baggage on me and I did it. I was doing it sad. I was doing it angry. I was doing it in pain, but I was doing it. I was fake smiling for my children. I just wanted to get them out of that situation. And if I could get into this industry as a female, as a Hispanic, that no one's really stepped on my shoes. I'm really one of the first as a female, and I'm paving the path. So nothing's gonna come easy. If you're uncomfortable, you're doing something right. If you're comfortable, you're doing something wrong. Nothing that is worth having is comfortable because then everybody would be doing it.
be?
It'd be so easy. So, like I said, if I can do it, you can do better. That's really my best
Well
advice.
said. So what is to come? What are you currently working on? What are your goals? Like what is
Oh,
to come?
yes.
What are you working on now?
So I currently I'm still working with Worx. We still are, a national provider for wind turbines.
Hmm.
We're moving into Mexico space, so we're trying to with that
I hear
territory.
that. Sorry, sorry.
I have a couple of conferences to go speak. I'm also moving into the faith, which is getting more conferences for Christian women,
Hmm.
speak about my faith, how that all connects. And I also started a marketing agency. I also am thinking, I was telling you about having a spa
Hmm.
closer to the Woodlands where I live. So there's a couple little projects. I'm also working on two books that I will be.
You go, girl.
Yeah. I don't know how much I can say, but I know that one of them is Christian faith and the other one is more professional, with just how I got there and,
Hmm.
everything that I've faced. So those are little bit projects that I have working on. This year, I did cut a lot of my traveling due to, my father. He recently had a stroke. So I'm trying to just focus on that, on my
Hmm.
mom and my family. But I'm not going to let it slow me down.
I I want you to know that celebrate now.
Hmm.
It's gonna come and it's gonna come full blown. Celebrate it now. I am so happy where you are now and where you're gonna go. Um, I thank God that He allowed to continue to heal your heart. I hope that every time you tell your story, it continues to heal your heart and heal others that are able to get your story to.
Hmm.
Like this, y'all, you are just an image of someone who has been through it, who's gone through it, and is
Hmm.
going to continue to get out of it.
Hmm.
And that it's possible. And I hate that unfortunately we live in a society where we're told everything different.
Right.
And I'm glad you're here. Thank you for being here. Thank you for
Thank
taking
you.
the time. I know you're a busy woman and telling your story. You guys, if you didn't get anything out of this, I don't know what to tell you. Like, like I am so happy that I'm able to meet so many clients day in, day out, and they're able to tell me their stories. I feel like this was a therapy session, even when I was doing your session during our session. Like, y'all, I feel I'm like lost for words right now because it's like, it's a blessing to be able to meet people like this because it's a constant reminder as far as women what we go through
Hmm.
and what we're capable of if we really put our mind to it. So for me, what I want to say is if you are someone who is currently struggling with the self-love and who is currently just afraid to look in the mirror, start today. Tell yourself and look at yourself, I love myself. Start there. I love myself. I'm going to continue to love myself and do little things that will get you out of that and make you happy. And you're only stopping yourself. You are the only person who's keeping yourself from happiness.
Hmm.
And be a testimony.
Yes, be a testimony, invest in yourself, give yourself all the love you've been given away. That's going to get you places.
Yes.
So,
So there will be so many more guests to come. Thank you, Cristal, for being here.
thank
I
you for
really
having
love you for being here and
me.
taking the time out, you guys. That is it for today. Check out the next podcast. Subscribe on our YouTube page as well, because this episode will be on YouTube and on Spotify. There's so much more to come, you guys. Stay strong, and until the next one.